Jake Morrison walked through the massive corridors of Harmony Prime Station. The walls stretched high above him, covered in strange symbols from dozens of alien worlds. Colored lights blinked and moved in patterns he did not understand. The air smelled different here, thick with the scents of creatures he had never met before coming to this place. Behind him walked Colonel Lisa Barnes, her military uniform neat and pressed. She carried herself like a soldier, alert and ready. Next to her, Dr. Alex Carter held a datapad filled with trade numbers and economic reports. The three humans looked small in the enormous hallway built for beings much larger than themselves. They had been on Harmony Prime for 5 days now. 5 long days of listening to alien voices tell them what humanity had done wrong. 5 days of accusations and demands. Jake felt tired, but he kept his face calm. He had learned long ago that showing weakness in negotiations only made things worse. The main council chamber loomed ahead of them. 2 massive doors, each 30 feet tall, slowly opened with a deep rumbling sound. Inside, the chamber was even more impressive. Hundreds of seats arranged in circles rose up toward a domed ceiling, painted with stars from across the galaxy. Most of the seats were filled with creatures that looked nothing like humans. The Zephyrians sat in the center section. They stood 8 feet tall with blue-gray skin and 4 arms each. Their leader, High Chancellor Vexatar, watched the humans enter with cold yellow eyes. The Zephyrians had controlled most of this part of the galaxy for over 1,000 years. They did not like that humans had spread to so many worlds in just 2 centuries. To the left sat the Trilaxians, looking like giant insects with their hard shells and multiple eyes. They controlled most of the shipping routes between star systems. Their clicking sounds filled the air as they talked among themselves. Jake knew they were angry about human ships using faster routes that cut into their profits. The Nexari delegation sparkled like living crystals in the chamber's bright lights. These beings grew their bodies from minerals and lived for thousands of years. They had been trading the same routes and selling the same goods for centuries. Human innovation made them nervous. Near the back, the depth dwellers sat in special water tanks. These fish-like creatures had gills instead of lungs and needed to stay wet. Their homeworld was covered in deep oceans, and they feared human terraforming technology might change worlds they wanted to claim. Jake took his place at the small table reserved for the human delegation. The table looked tiny compared to the massive platforms where the alien species sat. He knew this was intentional. Everything about this chamber was designed to make humans feel small and unimportant. High Chancellor Vextar rose from his seat. His voice boomed through speakers placed around the chamber. The human delegation will now hear the final terms decided by this council. Jake nodded but said nothing. He had learned that sometimes silence was more powerful than words. Humanity has expanded too quickly across this galaxy, Vexatar continued. In just 200 of your years, you have claimed 47 star systems. This rapid growth threatens the stability that has existed here for millennia. A Trilaxian delegate stood up, its voice making sharp clicking sounds that the translators turned into words. Human trade routes bypass established shipping networks. Your vessels move through space in ways that damage our traditional commerce. Dr. Carter shifted in his seat. Jake knew Alex wanted to point out that human routes were simply more efficient, but this was not the time for arguments. A Nexari representative spoke next, its crystalline voice ringing like bells. Human terraforming changes the very nature of worlds. You alter planets that have remained unchanged for eons. This disrupts the natural order of things. One of the depth dwellers made bubbling sounds in its tank. The translator converted this to words. Your expansion threatens worlds we have marked for future colonization. The oceans of 17 planets now fly human flags. Jake listened to each complaint. He had heard them all before during the past 5 days. Every species had the same basic problem with humanity. Humans did things differently, and they did them faster than anyone expected. High Chancellor Vextar raised his 4 arms for silence. Therefore, this council has decided upon the following terms. Humanity will surrender control of 70% of your colonial worlds. These will be redistributed among council members according to traditional territorial rights. Lisa Barnes's hand moved slightly toward her sidearm, but Jake caught her eye and shook his head slightly. Now was not the time. Furthermore, Vextar continued, humanity will accept permanent restrictions on your technology development. No new weapon systems, no new ship designs, and no new terraforming techniques may be developed without council approval. The chamber grew quiet. Even the constant background chatter of alien voices stopped. Everyone waited to hear the rest. Finally, all human military operations must be approved by this council before implementation. Human fleets will be reduced to defensive forces only, and your expansion into new territories will cease immediately. Vextar sat down heavily, his forearms crossed over his chest. These terms are not negotiable. Humanity has 10 standard days to accept these conditions, or this council will take necessary action to enforce compliance. Jake Morrison stood slowly. The chamber was so quiet, he could hear his own heartbeat. Hundreds of alien eyes watched him. Some looked curious, others appeared hostile, and a few seemed almost sad. He looked around the chamber, meeting as many eyes as he could. Then he spoke in a clear, calm voice that the translators carried to every seat in the room. The United EU. Earth Federation formally withdraws from all negotiations. We reject your authority over human affairs. The silence lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then the chamber exploded into chaos. Aliens shouted in dozens of languages. The Trilaxians clicked so rapidly their sounds became a constant buzz. The Nexari rang like alarm bells. Even the depth dwellers thrashed in their tanks. High Chancellor Vextar stood again, his yellow eyes blazing with anger. You cannot simply walk away from this council. We represent the established order of this galaxy. Jake Morrison picked up his datapad and tucked it under his arm. Lisa Barnes and Alex Carter stood beside him, ready to leave. We just did, Jake said simply. The 3 humans walked toward the massive doors as alien voices screamed behind them. They did not look back. Captain Ryan Walsh stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force ship Liberty, watching the last human transport leave Kepler Station. The station had been a joint research facility shared between humans and 3 alien species. Now it would belong only to the aliens. 6 months had passed since Ambassador Jake Morrison walked out of the Galactic Council chambers. 6 months since humanity had cut all ties with the alien government that tried to control them. Ryan had spent those months traveling from system to system, bringing human personnel home. That's the last of them, Captain, reported Lieutenant Amy Chen from her station. All human citizens have been evacuated from Council space. Ryan nodded. It had been a massive operation. Over 2 million humans had lived and worked in alien territories. Scientists, traders, diplomats, and their families all had to be moved back to human space. The logistics alone had been a nightmare, but they had done it. On the view screen, Kepler Station grew smaller as the Liberty moved away. Ryan had visited that station many times over the years. Human and alien scientists had worked together there, sharing knowledge and making discoveries that helped everyone. Now that cooperation was over, the communication system beeped. Captain Walsh, this is Command. Report your status. Final evacuation complete, Command. All human personnel are out of Council territory. We're heading home. Understood, Liberty. Well done. Command out. Ryan walked to his quarters after turning the bridge over to his first officer. In his cabin, he opened a secure channel to Earth. Admiral Patricia Stone appeared on his screen. She looked tired, but her voice was steady. How did the aliens react to the final withdrawals, she asked. About what we expected, Ryan replied. The Trilaxians seemed confused. I think they still believe this is some kind of negotiating trick. The Zephyrians were angry, making threats about consequences. The Nexari just watched everything with those crystal eyes of theirs. Admiral Stone leaned back in her chair. Intel reports suggest the Council thinks we'll come crawling back within a year. They believe we can't survive without their technology and trade networks. Ryan almost smiled. They really don't understand us, do they? No, they don't. How are our people handling the transition? Ryan thought about the faces he had seen during the evacuations. Some humans had been scared, leaving behind work they loved or alien friends they had made. Others had been angry, frustrated, by the injustice of the Council's demands. But most had been determined, ready to prove that humanity could stand on its own. "Morale is good," he told the Admiral. "People understand why we had to leave. Nobody wanted to live under those restrictions." 3,000 light-years away, High Chancellor Vexitar stood in his private office looking out at the Zephyrian homeworld. His aide, a younger Zephyrian named Kethvar, approached with a datapad. "The final human transport has left our space," Kethvar reported. "All diplomatic facilities have been closed. Trade agreements have been formally terminated." Vexitar's forearms remained crossed behind his back. "Good. Let them isolate themselves. Within a year, they will realize their mistake." "Sir, some of our economists are concerned about the trade disruption. Human routes carried 30% of our cargo traffic." "We managed without human routes for 1,000 years before they arrived," Vexitar said coldly. "We will manage again." Kethvar hesitated before speaking again. "There are also reports that some non-council species have been approaching human territories. The Harmony Collective has requested meetings with human trade officials." Vexitar turned around, his yellow eyes narrowing. "The Harmony Collective knows better than to defy this council. Send them a reminder of their obligations." On the human colony world of New Texas, Dr. Susan Hayes walked through her new laboratory. The facility had been built in just 4 months, designed to replace the research she used to do on alien stations. Around her, dozens of human scientists worked on projects that had been interrupted when they left council space. "How are we progressing on the mineral synthesis project?" she asked her assistant, Dr. Bob Martinez. "Better than expected," Bob replied, pulling up holographic displays of molecular structures. "We've successfully replicated 70% of the exotic materials we used to import from Trilaxian space. The remaining 30% will take more time, but we're making progress." Susan nodded. When humans first left council space, many people worried about losing access to alien technologies and materials. The council species had been trading and sharing resources for thousands of years. Humans had only been part of that network for 2 centuries. But humans had something the aliens seemed to lack: the ability to adapt quickly. Instead of depending on alien suppliers, human scientists were learning to make what they needed themselves. "What about the quantum processing units?" Susan asked. "Engineer Pete Johnson's team cracked that problem last week," Bob said with a grin. "Turns out human computer architecture works better than the Nixari systems anyway. We just never bothered to optimize it before because theirs was available." Across the galaxy, Trade Minister Kelnara of the Trilaxians received her monthly economic report. The numbers made her mandibles click with concern. Shipping profits were down 40%. Several major trade routes that had passed through human space were no longer profitable to operate. Her aide, a younger Trilaxian named Jixtal, stood nearby with additional reports. "Minister, 3 more shipping companies have filed for bankruptcy. They can't make money on the longer routes that avoid human space." Kelnara studied the data. "How long do our analysts predict before the humans return to negotiations?" "The consensus remains 8 to 12 months, Jixtal replied. "No species has ever successfully isolated themselves from galactic commerce for longer than that. And, if they don't return..." Jixtal's multiple eyes blinked in sequence. "The models don't account for that possibility. It's considered impossible." Meanwhile, on the asteroid mining station called Industrial Gamma, Commander Kelly Roberts supervised the expansion of humanity's resource extraction operations. The station had tripled in size since the withdrawal from council space began. "We're now producing more rare metals than we were importing from alien sources," reported Chief Mining Engineer Dave Thompson. "The asteroid belt in this system alone contains enough materials to supply human space for the next 50 years. Kelly smiled as she watched mining ships return from successful runs. "The council thinks we need them for resources. They never bothered to ask where we got everything before we met them. The truth was that humans had always been good at finding what they needed. When they first reached space, they had learned to mine asteroids, harvest gas from planets, and extract materials from moons. Contact with alien civilizations had made some things easier, but it had never been necessary. In his office on Luna, Secretary of Defense Mark Wilson reviewed intelligence reports from across human space. The reports painted a picture that would have surprised the Galactic Council. Instead of struggling with isolation, humanity was growing stronger. New ship construction is up 30%, his aide reported. Colony populations are increasing as people return from alien space. Agricultural output is at record levels. Mark nodded. And military readiness? All defensive positions are fully staffed. Fleet exercises show improved coordination without the need to work around council regulations. That last point was important. While part of the council, human military forces had been restricted by alien rules about weapons, ship designs, and tactical procedures. Now those restrictions were gone. The most interesting development was happening on the edges of human space. Several non-council species had quietly approached human colonies, interested in trade relationships outside the council's control. The Harmony Collective, a peaceful species that had been oppressed by council regulations for generations, wanted to exchange their biotechnology for human manufacturing techniques. The Iron Tusk Brotherhood, warriors who had been denied modern weapons by council restrictions, sought partnership with human military advisors. These species had watched humanity stand up to the council and walk away. They were impressed by the courage it took to reject such a powerful organization. Some were beginning to think that maybe they didn't need the council either. As the 6-month mark passed, it became clear that humanity's withdrawal was not a negotiating tactic. It was a permanent decision. The humans were not coming back to beg for readmission to the galactic community. They were building their own community instead. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stared at the numbers on her screen with excitement. After 18 months of hard work, her team at Luna Research Station had finally cracked the quantum tunneling problem. The breakthrough would change everything for human space travel. Run the simulation again, she told her assistant, Dr. Paul Green. I want to be absolutely certain. The holographic display showed a human ship entering what looked like a bubble of twisted space. Inside the bubble, normal physics worked differently. Distance became flexible. A journey that normally took weeks could be completed in days. The calculations are solid, Paul confirmed. We can build a working quantum tunnel drive within 6 months. Elena felt a thrill of pride. The Alien Council had always controlled the fastest travel technology in the galaxy. Their ships used traditional warp drives that bent space around them. Human ships had used similar technology, always staying one step behind alien capabilities. Now humans were about to leap ahead by taking a completely different approach. 3 systems away, Trade Minister Kelnara of the Trilaxians faced a crisis that grew worse each day. Her latest economic report showed catastrophic losses across all major shipping routes. Minister, we have lost 60% of our shipping contracts, reported her aide Jixtal. Companies are canceling orders because our delivery times are too long and our prices too high. Kelnara's mandibles clicked nervously. How is this possible? We have the most efficient shipping network in the galaxy. We did when we could use human space for shortcuts, Jixtal explained. The routes through human territory cut travel time by 40%. Without them, we cannot compete with local shipping companies in each sector. The problem was simple but devastating. For centuries, Trilaxian shipping had dominated galactic commerce because their routes connected distant parts of space efficiently. Many of those routes had passed through what was now human territory. With humans refusing all contact, Trilaxian ships had to take much longer paths around human space. What about the other council species? Are they experiencing similar problems? Jixtal's multiple eyes blinked sadly. The Nexari have lost mining rights to 12 asteroid fields that are now in human space. The depth dwellers can no longer access their traditional fishing grounds in human-controlled systems. Even the Zephyrians are struggling with supply chain disruptions. Meanwhile, Captain Matt Thompson prepared for the most important test flight in human history. His ship, the Pathfinder, had been fitted with the first working quantum tunnel drive. If Dr. Rodriguez's calculations were correct, he would reach the Centauri system in 3 days instead of the usual 2 weeks. All systems show green, reported his engineer, Lieutenant Carol Davis. The quantum field generators are operating within normal parameters. Matt looked at his crew of 12 volunteers. They all knew the risks. Quantum tunneling had never been attempted with a crewed vessel. If something went wrong, they might end up scattered across 1,000 light years or worse. "Are we ready to make history?" Matt asked. The crew responded with confident smiles and thumbs up. These were test pilots, the kind of people who volunteered for dangerous missions because someone had to be first. "Engaging quantum tunnel drive," Matt announced. Space around the Pathfinder began to shimmer and bend. Stars stretched into lines of light. Then everything went white for exactly 7 seconds. When the white faded, they were looking at the 3 bright suns of the Centauri system. "Position confirmed," Carol reported, her voice filled with amazement. "We're exactly where we're supposed to be. Transit time, 3 days, 4 hours. The celebration on the bridge was brief but intense. They had just made every ship in the galaxy obsolete, including their own previous vessels. Far away in the underwater cities of the depth-dweller homeworld, disaster struck without warning. Deep beneath the ocean, tectonic plates shifted suddenly. Massive earthquakes shook the sea floor, causing underwater volcanoes to erupt and creating deadly currents. Emergency Coordinator Glumesh sent desperate messages to the Galactic Council. "We need immediate evacuation support. Our deep-sea cities are collapsing. Millions of lives are at risk." The Council's emergency response coordinator, a Zephyrian named Texivore, reviewed available resources. "We can send 12 ships with basic rescue equipment. Estimated arrival time is 6 days. 6 days will be too late," Glumesh bubbled frantically. "We need specialized deep-water rescue vessels. We need them now." Texivore checked his database of available ships and equipment. The Council had rescue vessels, but none designed for deep ocean work at the crushing depths where depth-dwellers lived. For that kind of rescue, they had always relied on human technology. Human ships were specially designed for extreme environments. Human rescue equipment could operate at depths that would crush ordinary vessels. Human engineers understood underwater construction better than any other species in the galaxy. But humans were no longer taking council calls. "I'm sorry," Texivore told Glumesh. "We will do what we can with available resources." The rescue attempt was a disaster. Council ships managed to save only 30,000 depth-dwellers before their equipment failed. Nearly 300,000 died in the collapsing cities, trapped beneath miles of water with no one able to reach them. In human space, news of the depth-dweller tragedy reached Earth through independent monitoring stations. Many humans felt sympathy for the victims, but official policy was clear: no contact with Council species. The quantum tunnel drive test success, however, created excitement throughout human territory. Within weeks, every human shipyard was retooling to build vessels with the new technology. Human exploration ships could now reach distant star systems faster than anyone imagined possible. Captain Brad Foster was among the first to use the new drive for exploration. His ship, the Pioneer, jumped to a previously unexplored system near the galactic rim. What they found there surprised everyone. "Captain, we're detecting artificial structures on the 4th planet," reported his science officer, Dr. Linda Wright. "Large cities, but the architecture doesn't match any known species." "Are they hostile?" Brad asked. "Unknown. They're not responding to our standard greeting signals." As the Pioneer approached the planet, they discovered that the cities belonged to the Iron Tusk Brotherhood, a warrior culture that had been driven to the galactic edge by Council expansion centuries ago. The Brotherhood had been forced to live in isolation, forbidden by the Council from accessing modern technology or establishing trade relationships. The Iron Tusk leader, a massive creature called War Chief Groktar, greeted the humans with curiosity rather than hostility. Through translation devices, he explained his people's situation. "Council says we too violent for civilized galaxy," Groktar growled. "They keep us here away from other peoples, but we not animals. We want to grow, to learn to be part of something bigger." Brad Foster found himself making humanity's first alliance since leaving the Council. The Iron Tusk Brotherhood had resources that humans needed, rare metals found only in rim systems. Humans had technology and knowledge that the Brotherhood wanted modern manufacturing, medical advances, and most importantly, respect. We judge people by their actions, not their appearance, Brad told War Chief Groktar. If your people want to build a better future, humans will help. Back in Council, Space High Chancellor Vextar received reports that made his forearms tremble with rage. Human ships with impossible speed were appearing throughout the galaxy. Worse, they were making contact with species that the Council had worked hard to isolate or control. The humans have developed technology beyond our understanding, his military advisor reported. Their ships are faster than anything we possess. They're reaching systems we consider inaccessible. And they're talking to species we've specifically forbidden contact with, added his intelligence chief. The Iron Tusk Brotherhood, the Harmony Collective, even some of the Rim colonies that rejected Council membership. Vextar stood at his office window, looking out at the city that had been the center of galactic power for over 1,000 years. For the first time since becoming High Chancellor, he wondered if that power was slipping away. The humans had been gone for only 18 months, but their absence was creating cracks in the foundation of galactic civilization. Trade routes were failing, emergency response capabilities were limited, and now mysterious new technology was giving humanity advantages the Council couldn't match. Worse, humanity was offering friendship and partnership to species that the Council had kept under control through isolation and restricted access to technology. The carefully maintained balance of power was shifting, and it was shifting away from the Council. What do our analysts recommend? Vextar asked. His advisors looked uncomfortable. Finally, the intelligence chief spoke. Sir, some suggest that we should consider reopening negotiations with humanity. Vextar's yellow eyes flashed with anger. Never. Humans will learn that defying this council has consequences. But as he spoke those words, Vextar wondered if he was the one who was about to learn about consequences. Dr. Jim Parker stood in the medical bay of the human research station Mercy, watching his team work on a cure that would never be used. The plague that was killing millions of Zephyrians could be stopped with human medicine, but the Galactic Council had made contact impossible. The antiviral compound is ready, reported Dr. Nancy Lewis, holding up a vial of clear liquid. One dose would cure the infection completely. We could manufacture millions of doses within a week. Jim nodded sadly. 2 years had passed since humanity left the Council. 2 years of watching galactic news reports about crises that human technology could easily solve. The Zephyrian plague was just the latest tragedy. Any word from the diplomatic channels? Jim asked. Nothing official, Nancy replied. But we're getting private messages from Zephyrian doctors begging for help. They know we have the cure. The plague had started in the Zephyrian colony of Vex Prime, a mutated virus that attacked the nervous system of four-armed species. It spread rapidly through Zephyrian space, killing entire families in days. Human scientists had developed a cure within 2 weeks of learning about the outbreak, but they had no way to deliver it. High Chancellor Vextar had forbidden any contact with human territories. Even in the face of disaster, he refused to ask for help from the species he had tried to dominate. The result was catastrophic. 3 entire Zephyrian worlds had been evacuated and abandoned. The death toll was approaching 10 million. Zephyrian. Scientists were working desperately to develop their own cure, but they were months behind human research. Meanwhile, in the Iron Tusk Brotherhood territory, War Chief Groktar stood beside Captain Brad Foster, watching human engineers install new defensive systems around the Brotherhood's homeworld. The alliance between humans and the Iron Tusk had grown stronger every month. Council ships detected its system edge, reported Iron Tusk sensor operator Klegmar. 3 heavy cruisers, Trilaxian design. Brad looked at the tactical display. The Council had been probing Iron Tusk territory for weeks, testing their defenses. It was clear they planned to attack soon. They want to punish us for allying with humans, Groktar growled. Council thinks we betray them by choosing better friends. Let them come, Brad said calmly. We'll show them what human tactics can do. The battle began at dawn. 3 Trilaxian cruisers moved into Iron Tusk space, confident in their numerical advantage. The Iron Tusk Brotherhood had only 2 ships, old vessels with outdated weapons. By traditional calculations, the battle should have been over in minutes, but the Iron Tusk ships were no longer fighting alone. Human tactical coordinators had spent months training Brotherhood crews in advanced combat techniques. Human weapons technology had upgraded their ships with devastating new capabilities. The lead Trilaxian cruiser opened fire first, its energy beams targeting the Iron Tusk flagship. The beams struck a shield that should not have existed, created by human defensive technology. The energy scattered harmlessly across the shield's surface. The Iron Tusk ships responded with weapons that moved faster than light, striking the Trilaxian vessels before their commanders could react. Human-designed missiles appeared instantly, next to enemy ships, bypassing their defensive screens entirely. The battle lasted exactly 12 minutes. All 3 Trilaxian cruisers were destroyed with no losses to the Iron Tusk fleet. The Brotherhood warriors celebrated their victory, but Brad Foster knew the real victory was in what the battle represented. News of the Iron Tusk triumph spread quickly through galactic communication networks, a species that the Council had dismissed, as primitive barbarians had defeated a modern fleet using human technology and tactics. The implications were staggering. On Earth, Dr. Amy Clark presented her latest breakthrough to the Planetary Council. The new artificial gravity technology would allow humans to build cities in space that were larger and more comfortable than anything that existed on planets. The prototype station New Geneva is now complete, she announced, displaying holographic images of a massive structure floating in space. Population capacity 12 million, full gravity in all sections, complete atmospheric control. The council members stared at the images in amazement. New Geneva looked like a small planet, but it was entirely artificial. Gleaming towers reached toward the stars, connected by bridges that spanned kilometers of open space. "How is this possible?" asked Councillor Robert Kim. "We stopped trying to copy alien technology and started developing our own," Amy explained. "Human engineering approaches problems differently than other species. We build things that work in ways they never considered. The artificial gravity technology was revolutionary. Instead of using the spinning stations that other species built, humans had learned to create actual gravity fields. The technology opened up possibilities that had never existed before. Within months, construction began on 6 more artificial worlds. Each would be larger than New Geneva, capable of supporting tens of millions of people. Humans were no longer limited to planetary surfaces for their cities. The Harmony Collective, watching human achievements with growing excitement, made a formal request to join the United Earth Federation. Their leader, Harmony speaker Velani, transmitted the request directly to Earth. "Our people have lived under council restrictions for 800 years, the message said. We see in humanity a chance for true freedom and growth. We offer our biotechnology in exchange for partnership and protection." The Harmony Collective had developed the most advanced biological sciences in the galaxy. Their medical technology could extend lifespans, enhance physical capabilities, and cure diseases that other species considered incurable. Combined with human engineering, the possibilities were endless. President Helen Martinez of Earth read the request with interest. The Harmony Collective represented 50 million beings across 12 worlds. Their biotechnology would revolutionize human medicine. More importantly, their decision to join humanity would send a clear message to the galaxy. "Prepare a formal response," she told her aide. "Tell them we welcome all species who believe in freedom and mutual respect." The Galactic Council was falling apart. Trade Minister Kelnara of the Trilaxians had been forced to resign after her shipping empire collapsed. The Nexari had abandoned 3 major colonies due to resource shortages. Even the powerful Zephyrians were struggling to maintain order as the plague continued to spread. High Chancellor Vextar called an emergency session of the Council. The great chamber that had once been filled with confident alien voices now echoed with desperate arguments and accusations. "The humans have made a mockery of our authority," declared Nexari Representative Kilseth. "Their technology surpasses ours. Their allies grow stronger while we grow weaker. We should have negotiated with them when we had the chance," added Depth Dweller Coordinator Bluemesh. Pride has cost us more than surrender ever would have. Vexitar raised his forearms for silence. We will not bow to a species that has existed in space for barely 2 centuries. The Council has maintained order for millennia. We will not let upstart humans destroy what we have built. But his words rang hollow. Half the Council members had stopped attending sessions. Several species were openly negotiating with humans for separate trade agreements. The unity that had given the Council its power was crumbling. The final blow came when Admiral Steve Cooper led the largest human fleet ever assembled into the Vega system. 50 ships equipped with quantum tunnel drives and the latest defensive technology conducted training exercises that demonstrated capabilities beyond anything the Council possessed. The exercises were broadcast live throughout human space, but they were also detected by Council monitoring stations. The message was clear. Humanity had not only survived without the Council, they had become stronger. The human fleet moved through space with precision that made alien tacticians envious. Their ships appeared and disappeared using quantum tunneling, striking targets and vanishing before defensive systems could respond. Their weapons fired with accuracy that seemed impossible at such distances. Most impressive was their coordination. Human ships worked together like parts of a single organism, sharing information and resources instantly across the entire fleet. No Council species had ever achieved such unity in battle. In his private office, High Chancellor Vexitar watched recordings of the human exercises. For the first time since the crisis began, he allowed himself to consider the possibility that the Council had made a terrible mistake. The humans had not begged to return. They had not collapsed under isolation. Instead, they had grown stronger, made new allies, and developed technology that made Council forces look primitive by comparison. Worse, they were offering friendship and partnership to species that had grown tired of Council control. The Harmony Collective had already joined them. The Iron Tusk Brotherhood had proven that human alliance meant victory against Council forces. How many other species would follow their example? Sir, his aide Kethvar entered with a communication pad. We've received a priority message from the Outer Rim. Pirates have attacked our shipping lanes using unknown technology. Vexitar took the pad and read the report. His yellow eyes widened with shock. The pirates were using quantum tunnel drives, appearing next to Council ships without warning, and vanishing before reinforcements could arrive. General Nick Hayes stood on the observation deck of the human flagship Defiance, watching the largest military demonstration in human history. 300 ships moved through the Vega system in perfect formation, their quantum tunnel drives, allowing them to appear and disappear like ghosts among the stars. 3 years had passed since humanity walked away from the Galactic Council. 3 years of growth, innovation, and building new alliances. Today's exercise would show the galaxy exactly how much humans had accomplished in that time. All ships report ready, General, announced Admiral Carol Stone from the command center. Demonstration sequence can begin on your order. Nick nodded. This was not just a military exercise. It was a message to every species in the galaxy. Humanity was no longer the junior partner that had once begged for acceptance into galactic civilization. They had become something entirely new. Begin demonstration, Nick ordered. The human fleet moved like liquid lightning through space. Ships appeared next to asteroid targets, fired precision strikes, and vanished before the debris could settle. Quantum tunneling allowed them to be in multiple places simultaneously, creating tactical advantages that no traditional fleet could counter. But the most impressive display was not the weapons or the speed. It was the coordination. 300 ships working as one mind, sharing information instantly across thousands of light years. Human technology had created something unprecedented in galactic warfare: perfect unity of command. The demonstration was broadcast throughout human space, but it was also detected by monitoring stations across the galaxy. Every major power watched, as humanity displayed capabilities that made their own fleets look primitive. On the Zephyrian homeworld, High Chancellor Vexitar received the intelligence reports with growing dread. His military advisors painted a picture of human technological superiority that was almost impossible to believe. Their quantum tunnel drives make our fastest ships look motionless, reported Defense Coordinator Withdrawal. Their weapons strike with precision at ranges we consider impossible. Their defensive systems can absorb energy levels that would destroy our heaviest cruisers. Vextar's forearms trembled with suppressed rage. How did this happen? 3 years ago they were asking us for permission to exist in this galaxy. Sir, our analysts believe we fundamentally misunderstood human nature, Withdrawal said carefully. We assumed they would behave like other species when isolated. We assumed they would weaken and fragment without external support. Instead they used isolation as an opportunity to grow stronger. They developed technologies we never imagined. They formed alliances with species we had dismissed as unimportant. They became something we never expected them to become. The final disaster for the Council came from an unexpected source. Pirates from the Outer Rim, emboldened by years of watching Council weakness, launched a massive raid directly on the Zephyrian homeworld. The pirate fleet had grown bold after months of successful attacks on Council shipping. They had acquired black market human technology, stolen quantum tunnel drives, and recruited warriors from species that the Council had oppressed. Now they brought that combined force against the heart of the Zephyrian Empire. Emergency alert, announced the Zephyrian Defense Coordinator. Hostile fleet detected approaching the homeworld. Estimated strength, 200 vessels of unknown configuration. Vextar rushed to the defense center as alarms echoed through the capital city. On the tactical screens, he could see the approaching threat. The ships moved with the flickering disappearance pattern of quantum tunnel drives, but they were crude, copies of human technology, unstable and dangerous. Defend the homeworld, Vextar commanded. Deploy all available forces. The battle was a nightmare. Zephyrian ships, weakened by years of resource shortages and maintenance problems, struggled against pirates who fought with desperate fury. The stolen quantum drives allowed pirate vessels to appear behind Zephyrian defensive lines, striking at critical installations before vanishing again. The capital city's shield generators were destroyed in the first hour. Pirate raiders landed in the government district, causing panic among civilians who had never imagined their homeworld could be attacked. The great towers that had stood for 1,000 years burned under pirate assault. Zephyrian forces eventually repelled the attack, but the damage was devastating. The homeworld's orbital defenses were crippled. 3 major cities had been partially destroyed. Most importantly, the myth of Zephyrian invincibility was shattered forever. As rescue crews worked through the smoking ruins of his capital, Vextar realized that the old galaxy was gone. The Council's power had been built on the assumption that some species were naturally superior to others. Humans had proven that assumption wrong. In secret, using communication channels that officially did not exist, Vextar sent a message toward human space. The message was simple. The Galactic Council requested negotiations. The message reached Ambassador Jake Morrison at his office on Kepler Station, the new capital of human diplomatic operations. Jake read the transmission with no surprise. He had been expecting this moment for months. They want to negotiate, he told Secretary of Interstellar Affairs Patricia Wells. High Chancellor Vextar is asking for a meeting to discuss mutual cooperation. Patricia smiled grimly. After 3 years of telling us we had no right to exist independently, now they want to cooperate. Jake walked to his office window, looking out at the bustling activity of Kepler Station. Ships from dozens of species docked at the human facility, bringing trade goods and diplomatic messages. The Iron Tusk Brotherhood, the Harmony Collective, and 15 other species had joined the growing alliance that humanity was building. What do we tell them? Patricia asked. Jake thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. 3 years ago, he had walked out of the council chambers rather than accept terms that would have made humanity a servant species. That decision had seemed dangerous then, perhaps even foolish. Now it looked like the wisest choice humanity had ever made. We tell them that the United Earth Federation is always willing to discuss cooperation between sovereign equals, Jake said finally. But we will never again accept the authority of any organization that claims dominion over human affairs. The Response was broadcast openly, transmitted not just to the Zephyrian homeworld but to every major power in the galaxy. The message was clear. Humanity would negotiate as equals, or not at all. The effect was immediate. Within days, 3 council species formally announced their withdrawal from the organization. The Trilaxians, facing economic collapse, sought separate trade agreements with humanity. The Nexari, desperate for access to human mining technology, requested partnership discussions. Even some Zephyrian colonies began secret communications with human representatives. The Galactic Council, which had controlled local space for over 1,000 years, was dissolving. Species that had been held together by fear and tradition were choosing freedom and cooperation instead. Captain Lisa Martinez stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel New Horizons as it prepared for humanity's most ambitious mission yet. Her ship would travel beyond the local galactic arm to make contact with civilizations that had never heard of the old council. All systems ready for quantum tunnel jump, reported her navigation officer. Destination, Andromeda Arm, Sector 12. Lisa nodded. Humanity was no longer content to participate in galactic civilization. They were ready to help build something better to replace it. "Take us to the stars," she ordered. As the New Horizons vanished into quantum space, carrying humanity's message of friendship and cooperation to distant worlds, the old Harmony Prime station sat empty and abandoned. The great chambers where alien voices had once demanded human submission were silent now. In human space, representatives from 37 species gathered for the first meeting of the Voluntary Association of Free Worlds. Unlike the old council, this organization would be built on principles of mutual respect and sovereign equality. No species would claim authority over another. All would work together as partners. Ambassador Jake Morrison opened the historic session with words that would be remembered across the galaxy. "We gather not as rulers and subjects, but as free peoples choosing to build a better future together." The age of the Galactic Council was over. The age of human leadership had begun. High Chancellor Vexitar, watching the proceedings from his damaged homeworld, finally understood what humanity had tried to tell him 3 years ago. Power built on domination was fragile. Power built on partnership was eternal. The humans had not destroyed the Council through conquest or threats. They had simply offered the galaxy something better, and the galaxy had chosen to follow them instead. As the first session of the Free Worlds Association concluded with species after species pledging cooperation and friendship, one truth became clear to everyone watching. The humans had won not by fighting the old system, but by building a new one that made the old system irrelevant. The galaxy would never be the same.